Welcome everyone to Podcast 69 South, where we cuss and discuss true crime, cold cases, current events, and hot topics, along with our state of society today. This is your trigger warning. Our podcast content is produced for adult listeners 18 years of age and older. We discuss situations that may be offensive and triggering to some listeners. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome back, everybody, to 69 South. I am Chop, and riding shotgun is my beautiful co-host, Julie. How are you doing today?
Amazing as always.
Today, we're going to bring you up to speed on the Richard Allen appeal case.
And in case you don't remember or know who Richard Allen is, he was convicted of murdering the two little girls in Delphi back in 2017. And they initially filed to file an appeal in March of 2025, but they just got the brief filed December 18th. So we're going to jump into that and let y'all know what it says.
So the statement of issue are whether the search warrant of Allen's home was unconstitutional and the resulting evidence were inadmissible because law enforcement omitted or altered key facts in the warrant application. Number two, whether statements Allen made while gravely disabled during unprecedented pretrial solitary confinement were involuntary, the product of unconstitutional detention, and inadmissible. Number three of this part was whether the trial denied Allen his right to a fair trial to present and complete defense, to explain the scene, and impeach the investigation.
Now, their statement of case is that on October 28th of 2022, the state charged Richard Allen with 2 counts of felony murder by kidnapping, which was amended on March 22nd, 2024, to add 2 counts of murder. On November 11th, 2024, following a 25-day trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all accounts. The trial court sentenced Allen to an aggregate sentence of 130 years. Allen filed a motion to correct errors, which the trial court denied.
Now, the statement of the facts are, on February 14, 2017, 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams were found dead in the woods. 2 days later, Allen, like many others, came forward and reported that he had been on the trail that day and saw 3 girls. Now, because law enforcement wanted to know whether he had seen any, quote, possible suspects, he was interviewed in a parking lot. After the interview, the lead was marked cleared and the report was misfiled. Allen then returned to his job, family, and home in the small Delphi community. For the next 5 years, he did not sell his car, destroy his clothes, dispose of his guns, or relocate, but continued his normal routine. No witnesses identified Allen as Bridge Guy. When the report was rediscovered in September of 2022, law enforcement insisted Allen was Bridge Guy without a single eyewitness. Over the next several years, the state built its case against Allen.
So here we get into the warrant and the Bridge Guy video. On February 13, 2017, around 1:30 p.m., Libby's older sister dropped off Libby and Abby at the Monon High Bridge Trail to explore and take photos. The girls had the day off from school and the weather was unseasonably warm. When the girls failed to meet Libby's father at the specified time and no one could reach them, Libby's family contacted police and an extensive search began. The next day around noon, the girls were found murdered in the woods near Deer Creek, not far from the high bridge. The best evidence law enforcement had was from Libby's phone found at the scene under Abby's body. Libby recorded a 43-second video showing Abby walking across the bridge with someone, meaning they're thinking Bridge Guy, behind her. Law enforcement enhanced the video, yielding the following. The man is heard telling the girls, "Down the hill."
Law enforcement set up a tip line and many people came forward. 16-year-old RV, her sisters IV and AS, and her friend BW told police that they were on the trail, and as they were leaving, they saw a man near the entrance to the Freedom Bridge. Betsy Blair, who frequently walked the trails for exercise, came forward and told police she saw a white man on the high bridge standing on a platform and seemed to be waiting for someone. She thought the man was the guy in the bridge video because he was wearing the same clothes. When she reached the bridge, she turned around and noticed the two girls approaching. 4 months after the murder, law enforcement interviewed Sarah Carball. She told police that on February 13th, while driving eastbound on County Road 300, she saw a muddy man wearing a tan coat walking west toward town. After seeing the image of the bridge guy in the media, Carball said that he possibly was the man she had seen.
So 5.5 years later, on September 21st, 2022, law enforcement rediscovered the tip from Allen. Allen called and said he was on the bridge between maybe 1 and 3 and saw 3 girls. Allen shared his address, phone number, and MEID number, which is a unique identifier that can be used to track a phone's location. The lead investigators immediately started investigating now 50-year-old Allen. They believed that the man the 4 girls, RV and others, saw on the trail was Bridge Guy. Allen still lived in the same house and he worked at the same CVS store in Delphi as he did in 2017. On October 13, 2022, when police showed up at his house, Allen agreed to talk with them. After writing to the police station, Allen patiently answered questions about his personal life and the walk he took on his day off 5.5 years earlier. Allen explained after spending the morning with his mom on February 13, 2017, he went home to get a jacket before going to the trails. He walked out to the first platform of the high bridge, looked at the fish, and then walked back before returning home to watch the stock market.
He explained that he came forward after law enforcement asked to speak with anyone who had been on the trail. The next day, a DNR officer interviewed him in a parking lot. Allen believed that he told the officer he was on the trail between noon and 1:30 or 1:45. He could only recall seeing 3 girls leaving the trail. Being 5 years past, Allen could not remember what car he drove or the clothes he wore. He remembered wearing blue jeans and a jacket. When asked what type of jacket, Allen did not remember and listed all of the jackets he owned: a blue Carhartt, a black Carhartt, or an off-brand with a hood, sweatshirts, hoodies, and a fleece. He kept a skull cap in his jacket. He could have been wearing tennis shoes or boots. When law enforcement asked for consent to search, Allen expressed concern that they were making him somebody's fall guy by trying to fit pieces together that did not fit close to the case. He was confused, thinking they were talking to him to look for helpful information. Although he understood they had to clear everyone on the trail, he was bothered by the time passage.
After a break, law enforcement returned more confrontational with Allen, who became frustrated with being accused of murder and law enforcement contacting his wife and daughter while he was at the station. Confronting Allen with the Bridge Guy photo, Allen responded, "If that is taken with the girls' phone, that is not me. I have never met those girls before." They accused Allen of admitting he wore the same clothes as Bridge Guy, and Allen corrected the investigator, reminding him that he said he could have been wearing a sweatshirt. Allen added that everyone has looked at the Bridge Guy photo for years. To him, it did not even look like Bridge Guy was wearing a Carhartt. Finally, when law enforcement accused him of either being out there to kill the girls or introduce them to someone, Allen said, "Good luck finding anything that points to that." Despite Allen repeatedly telling law enforcement, "Arrest me or take me home," they would not stop. Allen eventually had to get up and walk out to end the interview.
Now, this is the story that Detective Liggett told the judge to get the search warrant. On October 13, 2022, the state applied for a warrant for Allen's home, car, and electronics. Detective Liggett's probable cause affidavit, he concluded that Allen is the last individual to have contact with Libby and Abby, and is the individual depicted on the Monon High Bridge from the video taken from Libby's phone. He reasoned that Allen admitted he was wearing a blue jacket and head covering like Bridge Guy and was on the trail bridge around the time of the abduction, and witnesses saw a man that they believed to be Bridge Guy wearing a blue jacket. Detective Liggett implied Blair and the girls saw the same man because they similarly described his jacket. Also, Detective Liggett concluded that Allen drove his black 2016 Ford Focus and parked at the old CPS building on 300 North. He claimed that witnesses saw a car backed into a parking lot spot in the CPS building. Wilson felt that the driver of the car was trying to conceal the license. Wilson said that the car was a purple PT Cruiser or small SUV type vehicle. Blair and Wilson drew a diagram and had the vehicle that they saw parked in the same general area and manner.
Now, the part of the story Detective Liggett did not tell the judge was about the differences between Blair's description of the man on the bridge and Allen's appearance. Just 3 days after the murders, Blair's description described the man as white, age 20, of medium build, and having brown curly hair. An artist completed this sketch, which Blair rated a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. In 2019, Detective Liggett personally interviewed Blair, who again described the man as slender, youthful, boyish looking, in his 20s to early 30s, no facial hair, and with poofy hair like the sketch portrayed, which she still gave a 9 out of 10 in accuracy. At the time of the murders, Allen was 44 years old, 5'6", and had very short hair. Now, Blair's description of the oddly parked car did not match Allen's. Detective Liggett also admitted Blair's description of the oddly parked car as resembling a 1965 Ford Comet with sharper angles, which they compared with images of her drawing to Richard Allen's hatchback vehicle.
And in this paperwork, there is the sketch, and it does look like an older car, like a box car. And Allen's car doesn't look anything like that or a PT or a purple PT Cruiser whatsoever.
Blair also said the oddly parked car was a nondescript color, but not black, and Allen's car was black. Next, they said that Blair did not believe the man on the bridge was the same man Carball saw walking down the road. Detective Liggett omitted that Blair told him the man Carball described walking down the road is not the same man she saw on the bridge. And then below is a sketch of the image that the ISP put out of the man with the hat on.
Right,
We'll
which
post it
is
on our Facebook.
is
so everybody can see it.
definitely looks like an older man with a hat on. It's almost like they took the image that the lady said she saw walking with no hat in her 20s, a younger kid, no facial hair, and then they took
what the other person said.
Right, and kind of made it look like this dude, which I'm sure you
manipulated it a little bit.
Absolutely, which we'll post all these on the Facebook.
After talking with Blair in 2019, ISP issued a press release distinguishing the man Carball saw from a man on the bridge. The ISP explained the men are not the same person and that Blair's sketch is representative of the face of the person captured in the video of Libby's cell phone. Next, Carball said the man walking down the road was wearing a tan coat. Detective Liggett also made false statements in the affidavit. He claimed that an interview was done of this Carball witness in 2017, and she stated she saw a man wearing a blue-colored jacket and was muddy and bloody. Carball did not describe the man as bloody, only muddy. She said he was wearing a tan jacket.
Now, Allen said that he was never wearing a blue Carhartt, and his wife said Allen had purchased his current Carhartt a couple of years earlier. Detective Liggett falsely stated that Allen said he was wearing a black or blue Carhartt with a hood and a head covering. Allen told investigators that he did not know what he was wearing, and it could have been anything from a Carhartt to a sweatshirt, and that he kept a skull cap in his jacket. Although Allen's wife said he had a blue Carhartt in 2022, Liggett left out that she said Allen purchased the coat just a couple of years ago. The girls were killed in 2017, and this was 2022.
So after all the information that Liggett proposed to the court in the probable cause affidavit, the trial court issued the warrant. Law enforcement seized from Allen's home multiple items, including a Sig Sauer gun, knives, casings, and the Carhartt type jacket with a white and yellow patch on the front pocket. These items featured prominently during Allen's trial.
Now, Allen denies that the bullet is his, that he was bridge guy, or had anything to do with the murders. At the scene, officers found an unspent, unfired .40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge near Libby's right ankle. When ISP analyst Melissa Oberg cycled 6 cartridges through Allen's gun, she did not find any marks that matched the marks on the cycled round at the scene. Thus, she could not establish a link between Allen's gun and the unspent round at the scene. Oberg then fired 4 cartridges from Allen's gun. She compared the markings on these spent cartridges to the markings on the unspent cartridge at the scene. Then she concluded that Allen's gun was the source of some of the markings on the unspent cartridge at the murder scene. And there's a side note that Bridge Guy's coat did not have a patch like the ones that they seized from Allen's home.
After learning of Oberg's conclusion on October 26, 2022, law enforcement interrogated Allen again for about an hour and a half. Detective Holman accused Allen of killing Abby and Libby, or at least being involved. Allen explained the very day the police asked anyone on the trail to come forward. That is what he did. I went for a walk on the trail and I went home, and I did not murder 2 little girls. Detective Holman repeatedly confronted Allen with Oberg's conclusion that marks on the casings at the scene matched his gun. Each time Allen denied that the bullet at the scene was found from his gun, Holman even claimed the methodology was scientific and like fingerprints. Exhausted and frustrated by Detective Holman's relentless accusations that he murdered Abby and Libby, Allen consistently said he could not tell them what happened to the girls because he did not know. He did not know how that round got between the girls or how they died. He emphatically stated, "I did not murder 2 little girls."
Despite Detective Holman's lying about experts identifying Allen and his voice on the video, Allen continued to deny he was Bridge Guy. Detective Holman tried a different lie, saying 5 witnesses saw Allen with Libby and Abby and a gun. Again, Allen said, quote, "It did not happen," and, quote, "I don't care how stressed out I get, I am not going to admit something that I had nothing to do with." Detective Holman tried to use Allen's depression against him, claiming it was because he killed 2 little girls. That did not work. Detective Holman even used Allen's wife as an interrogation tool. While Allen was being interrogated, ISP told her that the bullet at the scene matched her husband's gun. When they brought her in to see Allen, he hugged her and said, "It's going to be all right." While left alone together, she asked how his bullet got at the scene and how he repeated what he told Detective Holman, quote, "I am not going to say something I did not do, and I can't explain something I don't understand." He told her, quote, "I know that no bullet from my gun was connected with a murder in any way, shape, or form." Indiana State Police lied to Allen's wife, too, telling her that a witness identified Allen. Allen assured her they are not going to get away with this and told her, "I am sorry you are having to hurt. I am sorry that I am having to go through it."
Just a few days after 50-year-old Allen was arrested for the first time in his life, he was sent to Indiana Department of Corrections as a safekeeper. Indiana DOC transferred him to the Westville Correctional Unit, a maximum security segregation unit for the worst of the worst. The movies refer to it as the hole, used mostly to punish. Allen was the first safekeeper in any DOC employee's memory to be placed in Westville Correctional. Pretrial safekeepers with mental health issues are usually placed in a mental health unit. DOC knew Allen had major depressive disorder and was hospitalized in 2019 for suicide ideation. He received a D mental health code, the second most severe, entitling him to one out-of-cell psychology visit each week. During the visits, Allen was shackled and confined in a 3-by-3-foot cage separated from the psychologist. Allen had no face-to-face interaction unless shackled or separated by bars. Outside his cell, he was restrained with leg irons, handcuffs, and a belly chain on a lead. Other Westville inmates and general population lived in dorms, played games, ate together, watched TV, and moved around more freely. Allen was placed in a strip cell, stripped of everything but the bare necessities. Allen's cell was 8-by-12 with a camera, a mattress that was on a concrete slab with a bug infestation. His only view was a narrow window facing a razor wire fence. Meals were passed through a door slot. He ate alone on the floor or on his bed.
That'd make anybody crazy.
Allen was recorded 24/7 with a suicide companion outside his cell door writing down his statements and behavior, and guards with video cameras filming his showers and his movements outside the cell, also attorney meetings. DOC knew solitary confinement could worsen Allen's depression and even cause psychosis, and their policy restricts the time inmates with serious mental illness can stay in solitary confinement to 30 days. But DOC did not apply that policy to Allen, and he remained in the most secure solitary cell in Westville Correctional Unit for 13 months.
When Richard Allen arrived at the prison in November of 2022, Allen appeared like a deer in the headlights, but was coherent, quiet, and weighed 180 pounds. By April of 2023, he weighed 135 pounds, was psychotic, and gravely disabled. Early in custody, Allen maintained innocence and believed solitary was meant to tear him down. He told the psychologist, Dr. Walla, he felt like a, quote, broken man after 2 weeks. Allen described a quiet, normal life previously. Allen was extremely devoted to his wife. On November 14, 2022, he emotionally told her, if this becomes too much for you, call the detectives and I will tell them whatever they want to know. By January 26 of 2023, Allen was expressing paranoia. In late March and early April, around the time Allen received his discovery and met with his attorneys, Allen's behavior suddenly worsened. Guards thought he was, quote, acting up. He refused meals, became nonsensical, spoke of old bear claw hypnotizing him, and acted like he was from medieval times. He ripped legal mail, washed his face in the toilet, and drank toilet water. He stuck a spork in his genitalia and covered himself in feces, spit, and vomit. Video from the early April showed Allen frightened, extremely thin, bleeding, shaking, contorting, and interacting with non-existent stimuli. He was pacing back and forth, eating his Bible, and hitting his head on the cell door. On a video from April 12th, he was naked while he flapped his hands, punched in the air, counted imaginary objects, pulled feces from his anus, and smeared it into food, and marched in place.
On April 14th, the DOC ordered involuntary medication and found him gravely disabled, a working diagnosis of MDD with psychosis. He had lost an abnormal amount of weight and was not sleeping. Halidol produced minimal improvement. He continued to speak in loose associations about things like nuclear war, poisoning, dying, losing reality, cryogenic eyeballs, and not remembering confessions he had already given. He also continued to play with his feces. After letting Allen sit in his feces for 2 hours on April 23rd, he was removed from his cell and given a shower. Allen's symptoms continued through May. On May 3rd, Dr. Walla diagnosed Allen with a brief psychotic disorder, noting he had disorganized speech and behavior, but no delusions or hallucinations. On May 25th, his shot was still not working. Allen paced for 2 hours and banged the back and front of his head on a metal door for about an hour. Despite his self-injury and visible goose egg on his head, no one checked on him. The next day, Allen had 2 black eyes from banging his head, and on June 5th, DOC was administered another 30-day involuntary Halidol injection. On June 20th, 2023, Allen was catatonic and extremely skinny. Guards carried him to the infirmary, strapped in a chair. After his visit, he remained vacant while staff wiped drool from his mouth. That same day, Dr. Martin claimed Allen was coherent, oriented, and not psychotic, and had been free of psychosis for 7 weeks, returning to baseline on May 2nd.
Allen confessed to his family over the phone April 3rd, May 10th, May 17th, June 5th, and June 11th. On April 3rd, he told his wife, "I did it. I killed Abby and Libby," later saying, quote, "Maybe I did. I think I did." On May 17th, 2023, Allen insisted to his mother he killed the girls. The next day, on May 18th, Allen banged his head against the cell door to the point where he had a gash. Allen told his wife he did it, but that he has lost his mind. He is probably going to kill himself. Feels like he is already in hell and does not understand what is happening.
From April through June, guards repeatedly heard Allen confess, "I killed Abby and Libby," amidst his bizarre behavior. His statements occurred while he smeared feces, rolled in it, drank toilet water, shouted at his shadow, sang, masturbated, paced, saluted, asked nonsensical questions, hit his head, and even asked if he was dead. On April 29th, Allen made a more specific statement to a guard, claiming he killed 2 girls in Delphi with a box cutter that he'd stole from and left in the trash at CVS. He was going to rape them, but he panicked and killed them. He said they were screaming. Just the day before, he was covered in his feces.
This is going to be a 2-parter because the brief is pretty long, so we're just basically going to discuss this for a minute. I tell you what, it took a couple of times for us to get through that script because that's some pretty rough shit, man. I mean, I don't know. I saw Allen's interview and...
His first interview.
Yeah, I've seen both of them.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, but I mean, everybody has an opinion, man, but it just didn't seem to me like he was the type of dude to do that shit. I mean, does all the stuff we read sound like a CVS manager? I mean, the dude was smearing poop on himself and stuff. That's pretty messed up.
After 13 months of being locked up in solitary confinement. But you know what? Here's how everybody's looking at it like a 2-sided coin. You know, if he's innocent, all this is horrible, which it is. It absolutely is if he's innocent. But if he's guilty, I mean, anybody that murders 2 girls like that, that's the kind of stuff they deserve. You know what I mean? I mean, not deserve, but that's what their life needs to consist of. Just a little cell with them getting their food slid to them through a thing. I mean, I think that's too good for somebody who murders 2 little girls.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I tell you what, I've known some people and interviewed some people that's been in Westfield prison, and it's a fucking horrible place. And for them to restrict people to be in the solitary confinement that he was for only 30 days at a time, and he was in there for 13 months, I mean, Hell, I'd probably be rubbing shit on myself. I don't know. That's pretty fucked up. And the reason I say that about his interview is because just his reaction when they said, "Oh yeah, Richard, this bullet did come from your gun," and he laughed. He was like, "No, it fucking didn't." Like he literally laughed at him, like, and it wasn't a laugh like he was faking it. It was a laugh like
you got to be
you're
kidding
you're
me.
full of shit, dude. You're lying to me to try to get me to confess, like cops do. Most cops.
Right. Goodness.
And I have some feelings about how they matched that bullet to the gun too. I mean, if those ejection marks are so, forensically true, then why did she eject 6 shells out of it and could not get,
An identical match.
yeah, unspent shells, which is like the shell that they found. An unspent round means it was not fired. She ejected 6 of those out of his pistol and could not get them to match the one at the crime scene. But then she fired 4 rounds and she matched. I'm not exactly sure how many. She said she matched maybe 1 or 2. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on how many they matched after it was fired. But if you've ever ejected bullets out of a semi-automatic pistol, sometimes it doesn't leave any marks. And they're talking about just the marks that the 2 little rods fly out. I mean, I don't think the dude, I don't know how many times he shot his gun, but them 6 hours, they make them, all the parts, especially the ones that eject, they're all made, I mean, damn near identical. Damn near identical. Go ahead.
What do you think the odds are of that being a true match and being his gun?
I don't trust the science of that myself.
I looked up some science on that.
Yeah.
So I looked up, like this scenario, and what I learned is that the scenario described was referred to the forensics ballistics testing in the Delphi murders. The firearms examiner tested Alan Sig Sawyer by cycling 6 unfired rounds and then fired 4 rounds, like you said. Now, black box studies on firearm tool mark identification estimate false positive rates, where an examiner incorrectly identifies a match between items from different guns at approximately 0.9% to 1%. However, these studies primarily involve comparisons between fired casings, not direct fired to unfired comparisons, as in the case. Critics, including the defense expert, argue that comparing fired casings to an unfired one introduces additional uncertainty, potentially increasing the risk of error.
So, give me the percentage of it. So, the percentage of accuracy was the 0.9 to 1%. That's insane.
0.9% to 1.
Now,
Still,
that's come on. They shouldn't be able to use that in court. I mean, you would think that. I mean, I've seen the forensics when they use it on a fire pin, because the firing pins, they'll all wear it a little bit different because people shoot different rounds out of their guns.
mm-hmm.
And I've also seen the forensic testing where they use the rifling of the barrels, and I get that even. But an ejected shell, and then you eject 6 out of it, and none of them match. It's grasping at straws at best for me. And Richard Allen would not even be on their radar if he hadn't have voluntarily went in there to try to help him. Maybe I saw something that
right
that could help you guys find the killer to these 2 little girls. Now,
Dr. Eric Warren said that firing changes the metal properties of the casing, making direct comparisons unreliable. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100% for sure.
And then legal analysts and critics noted that this deviates, the protocol that she used deviates from standard protocols, and there are no validated studies specifically supporting conclusion identifications between fire tested casings and unfired evidence cartridges in this manner.
See, I just don't trust that shit. I just don't.
It's wild.
And to be locked up in solitary confinement for 13 months, and if the other prisoners in there, I mean, we all know what they do to rapists, murderers, anybody that hurts little kids. They torture them.
And by the time you're sent to Westville, you're adjudicated guilty normally. They don't
Right.
send pretrial people there. So,
Exactly.
I mean, he was guilty the moment he walked in there to everybody there.
And also, it wasn't like he was there by himself where he could think on his own time. They had what about the quote unquote suicide buddies that they had sitting there?
Oh yeah, suicide companions. Who was the companion? Were they inmates?
Other prisoners.
So they're letting other prisoners just watch this dude and write down whatever they want. Oh, he said this, he said this,
Exactly.
he said this.
Exactly.
Come on.
And I mean, not all of them. Some of them may have been good Christians or whatever, but in my mind, I'm thinking they're probably sitting there saying, "You little bitch, you killed them girls, you deserve to die." You got the psychiatrist doping you up and telling them you did it. I mean, it's a horrible fucking deal. I tell you, man, if the dude did it, I'd rub shit on him myself. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't know with this one. I get a pretty good read on people, man. And I'm having a hard time buying the case. The confessions is what ultimately got him, but we're going to get into that too later.
I often wondered, whenever they interviewed him and then they marked it clear in the tips file or folder, it said it got misfiled. But if it was filed as cleared, then what should it have been filed under? If not cleared, why would you go back and look at cleared?
Right. Well, they said a clerk. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, a clerk found the error. Like, how would you know if it was an error if it just was marked clear on it?
Right, exactly. That's a good point.
How would you know?
That's a good point.
But, I see why the jury did vote him guilty. They just couldn't overcome them confessions. I mean, to some people, it's just, you can't even wrap your mind around admitting to something that you didn't do, especially murder two little girls. And that just coming out of somebody's mouth is absolutely wild to them. And he said it so many times. He did. I mean, I hate to admit it, but it almost swayed me.
I know.
But I'm
I do get that.
undecided.
I'm undecided too, but I don't think as a CVS manager that he went home every night and rubbed poop on himself and jacked off and shouted at his shadows and licked out of the toilet like a dog either. So all of his behavior was
Well, that was months
out
after
of the
being in
ordinary.
solitary confinement.
Well, the confessions were quite a ways into the confinement too. And it's funny how they said
6 months in, I think
that's
it was.
quite a long ways into a solitary confinement
Well,
in
yeah.
Westville. And it was also, I thought that it was weird that one day Alan was drooling on himself and rubbing shit all over himself. And the next day, the psychiatrist marked him down as normal. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's like the records aren't matching.
No, and I tell you what, you give somebody enough shots of Haldol in their ass, they're going to...
They'll say anything.
They don't know what the fuck they're saying. They're just saying whatever, I don't know, man. I don't see it on this one, and I feel guilty. I'm torn because I would feel like a piece of shit if he really did do it, because I am all for justice for Abby and Libby, 100%. It was a horrific crime, and if he did it, then all of this stuff is validated, in my opinion.
But, there was a lot of talk along the way of evidence that people didn't get to see. And in this brief, it lays out a lot of information that, were maybe rumors here and there. But now they've put it in this brief to go to the appellate court. And I don't think they'd be putting it in that brief if it didn't hold any type of weight.
I agree. I think at least he needs to be allowed another trial. I know, man. There's going to be people out there that say, "Why put the family through this again?" But there's enough people that doubt, and there's enough doubt in my mind. And the police jacked this thing up from the gate, lying to get the search warrant. That should be fruits from a poisonous tree, as they call it, isn't it?
I think something like that.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. If y'all listen to this and follow us on Facebook, let us know what you think about the Richard Allen case. We're going to put a post about this, and I cannot wait to get into the second part of this episode because it gets really good, what needs to be re-adjudicated in my eyes.
Absolutely.
Well, that does wrap up part one of the Richard Allen appeal case. And if you support what we do, go to
www.patreon.com/69south.
help us keep the lights on in the studio. Until then, have a wonderful day. Good evening.